Happy birthday, Lee Diffie. Love, Daniel Blair. Damn. Checkmate.
Today is a special day for my old broadcasting partner. Wish Lee Diffie a very happy birthday with many more to come. Have a great day, my old pal.
Well, looks like the happy part didn't last very long.
Come back. We'll talk about the DB video, Daniel Blair video that came out today. We got a I Don't Know Man segment coming up, Race Tech Rant. The 7 Deuce coming up as well. Jason Thomas, I want to talk to him a little bit about Cooper Webb and the big signing for Fly and all the things that's going on for those.
We even haven't talked really about the Daniel thing yet. Like, we're 2.5 hours in.
I don't know, man. I front load the guests because they're all on the East Coast.
I'm good with it.
Right.
I'm just shocked.
Okay. Oh well.
It's gonna be a great second half of the show.
It's
I'm
gonna have people are gonna keep watching.
I'm not scared. I'm just not gonna say anything.
All right, we'll go to commercial break here after this with Jason Thomas from Fly Racing. I'm Steve Mathis. Be right back after this commercial, everybody.
I see you, I hear you, and I apologize. 2 times now, I was not fully transparent why I walked away. First was on the SMX Insider Show. Nobody on there knew why I was leaving. I didn't want to dirty up the sport. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I care way too much. I was also working for KTM. I couldn't make a stink while employed with them. It's not fair to them, and it's not fair to my boys, my Orange Brigade kids. I didn't want negative attention from fans at the races, coming up to me, making it all about me and my sob story. I mean, imagine the distraction that would have been. It would have been terrible for them, and I didn't want to be a victim either. I'm not one, and I didn't want to be known as the guy who got checkmated. Gypsy was the second time. I wasn't fully transparent. I needed to move on. It was killing me, and I had to give you all some truth. So I put it all on one guy, a no-name, faceless guy that you crazy fans couldn't get to online. I wasn't lying, every word was true, but it wasn't all of it. I didn't want to hit Lee, I didn't want to hit Ricky right before the season, and I accepted that I lost the game and decided to do it before A1, to move on. I knew the timing would help it. A1 would somewhat bury it. Eli Tomac was coming on right after me, and it worked, sort of. I had a messy couple days, but for the most part, it was over. I'm sorry for not being transparent. I put the sport over the fans for what I thought were good reasons, but I was wrong. The fans are the sport, and today, I'm gonna clean it up. I've tried not to do this, but after what happened this past weekend at Daytona, I couldn't take another bullet or another arrow. I'm done. So here's the truth.
Got a monster inside of me. You better watch out.
I complimented Todd Harris, and I said he was one of my favorite broadcasters, and he was. 2004, he was the play-by-play. I was breaking out a little, leading some heats in my LBZ gear, and he called my races. And I was blown away that he was back, and I said he was one of my favorites, and I loved his energy, and I offended Lee. The next day, I get a call from Mr. Decision Maker, who chewed my ass, told me to grow up and be professional and be grateful for the opportunity that I was being given. And I was like, what? I am. What did I say? And he said, call Lee and clean it up. And he told me that the clip was actually taken out of the episode, and they took it out. And I couldn't believe it. I would never offend him on purpose, but damn, okay. So I called Lee right away, and he chewed my ass too. Said, don't compare broadcasters, which I wasn't. It was never a knock. I looked up to Lee. I wanted to be like him. I'd never offend on purpose. But from then on, I put him in a box. He was a colleague only. I would never speak freely and comfortably around him again.
Yeah.
And that started everything. Doghouse. I was in the doghouse with NBC right out of the gate. Next came the 2021 season. I did get my audition. Feld fought for me. I told this all on Gypsy. Salt Lake City was my first night in the booth. It was amazing. Fast forward, 2022, I did 4 in the booth. Lee and Todd were doing the Olympics, so I got the call. And I got to do 4 straight. And I got on a roll. I think I crushed them, and I got really comfortable. And I do want to make something clear. I was not given any guarantees. Okay, I was not. But I was told that I nailed it and I proved myself, and the TV contract up, I was gonna be the lead voice moving forward. And the networks always have control of talent, but moving forward, I was their guy. And they were in talks with a few different networks and I was their guy. So I made the gut call. I sold Eagle Grid. I could not do both anymore. I was running a business by myself and chasing a dream, and it was pretty gnarly. And I went all in on TV. I signed with the Montag Group. My plan was to go all in on Supercross, sprinkle in some other sports, but I needed to settle in first at Supercross, and we had a long-term plan. It was a great meeting in New York City in a skyscraper in downtown, and life was moving. I moved across the country, chose Greenville. It's in good for TV, and it was the best decision of my life. It's by far the best, but the decision was made because I thought that I had the booth full time, and that was my bad. There were no guarantees, but it worked out, and I am beyond happy here. I'll never move. That summer, I started hearing word that my future was a little less certain, and I was hearing that NBC was back in it. There was gonna be this new playoff system, and I was like, uh-oh.
Here we go.
And I was told that I could not use my agent in doing my deal. I had to do it alone. September, I asked to come in, and I sat at the table with all the people I respected so much, and I poured my heart out, and I hit them from every angle, why I was meant to be in that chair. I shared my vision for the future, and they said I was their guy. They called me the voice of Supercross, which they said it in person and in text, and I still look at that screenshot, and I'll be deleting it now. October 31st, I get the call, my offer, my deal, and I could tell right away it was not great. I had 6 races in the booth. Todd was gonna fly in from London, which, no knock on Todd, I love Todd, but it was an NBC decision. 6-6-5 was the split, and I was devastated. I couldn't believe it. They signed a long-term deal with NBC. Lee signed a long-term deal with NBC, and I was like, damn, this sucks.
Here we go.
But I decided to do it, and I refocused my goals. I was no longer gonna be desperate for that spot. I just was gonna crush and see where it took me. So I doubled down, I had new goals, and you gotta remember, I thought I was the guy, and booth was my focus. I worked for that spot for 2 years, but I had to change up the prep, and I was gonna crush everything. I was gonna just play the long game, and Coach Tony reminded me that I was young, I was just a pup. And he said, let's show how good you can be, and let's prove that you and RC are the best together, and that all comes down to chemistry. And he said, let fate handle it. And I worked the hardest I ever worked, and I studied RC. I watched every show back. I learned his rhythm. Had a big year coming, and I got over it pretty quick. I was still really happy to be on TV, and I was young, and I was just gonna crush it without a destination in mind. So 2023 was my final year. A2 was up first. It was my first booth show, which they still mattered most to me, obviously. And it was a crazy fun show, an unreal night. It wasn't our best show, but it was the most fun. And the fan support kicked in pretty heavy. It was like the first time it was like, whoa, on Instagram and YouTube and Twitter.
Everyone was
and it went from moderate fan support to crazy. And the support from the pits got louder. The riders were coming up to me in Houston the next week, finally calling it like a race. And everyone was buzzing. I was on a high, and I was pretty stoked. Houston was up next, my only back-to-back. They had my dates kind of scattered around, which was brutal, changing roles every week, but whatever, I handled that. And RC's opener on camera was terrible, and I noticed right away how pissed he was.
Shit.
And I thought it was over the graphic. The truck put up the wrong graphic in the opener, and I was pissed, like, come on. You can go watch it. I had a 0% clue that he was mad at me, but the rest of the night, he was a bit off. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't A2. The next week, I got a call from a guy at NBC, a guy I actually like and respect, and I said I needed to be precise with my question, not to change it up, and I had never had to do that before with anyone. I'm not a robot. I asked the question a different way from rehearsal. Look, same question, just different flow. That's how I've done it every single time with every single person ever. And the wrong graphic popped up. It wasn't me. That was a cop-out. And I'm on a one-year deal. I'm trying my best to prove myself. I wanted to make Ricky happy, so I agreed to do it. Word for word, no issue moving forward. Tampa was next. I was back on the floor, but they added a pre-show, which was cool. I got to hang with James and Weege, which the only time this happened, and kind of a low-key, rad moment. Chemistry was pouring on screen. I mean, they were the moto guys. I loved those dudes during the summer, and I was with them. It was pretty rad. But Oakland was up next. It's my hometown race. Everyone always smashes Oakland, but I actually love that place. I was born a few minutes from there, and so I'm fired up. Home sweet home. It's Oakland. And after the rundown meeting, I get sat down by Bondo and Ricky. They seemed a bit fragile at first, kind of scared to tell me. And then they asked me to be less me and more of a broadcaster, and said I was a little too inside baseball. I needed to be more broad and 30,000 feet. And I really wasn't fully understanding, but RC admitted that he wanted me to be like Lee and wanted room to analyze. And said I crossed over into was calling it at 3,000 feet, not 30,000. I call it at the bike. I call burn to burn, jump to jump. I forced him to analyze. I sped up the pace. He's better that way, and I thought this was a terrible idea, but that's what he wanted. So I said, okay. I'm a bit frustrated with Bondo over this. It was the night before. I mean, why not Monday or Tuesday? I was bouncing around roles. I mean, give me a chance here, dude. I'm pretty adjustable, but one night, and he was wrong. He was appeasing Ricky. The request was wrong. I mean, imagine I sit down with RC the night before with the producer, and I say, hey, I need you to analyze more like James. Imagine roles reversed, and I would have been in some big trouble, but hey, he's the GOAT. It's what he wanted, whatever. I stayed in the hotel. I had dinner plans with friends that night. I just stayed in and I watched Tampa back and I studied Lee. And I even wrote down some of the things he said. I had them on my cheat sheet so I could kind of word for word give him some layups, but I studied until like 2 in the morning. I was so nervous the next day. I'd never been told how to be, ever, except by my coach, which I listened to every word he said, but right before the night show, about 20-30 minutes before, I get a text from Lee in a group text, which was pretty odd. We didn't have a group text. We weren't friends. We were barely colleagues. I mean, he was barely around. Plus, I had him in a box. And I was startled by this. I mean, he had to have known or been involved in the sit-down with me and RC and Bondo. And he told us to be clear coming on the air. And I'm like, Houston. But he overstepped bad. He's not my coach. He's not our coach. He's not the producer. It's not his place. And again, imagine if I did that. It's way out of bounds to be involved. But it's a terrible show. It was the worst one ever for me. I mean, go back and watch it. I hate even saying that, but it was empty, it was hollow, it was flat, and I tried so hard to do what they asked, and it just sucked. I walked back to the car after. I'm pretty bummed. I called producer Joe, and like always, and he said, bro, wait until you see the comments. And I get to the hotel, and the comments were very positive for me, really positive, and terrible for RC. And I was furious. I needed fans to support us. It was always about us. I catered to their ask. I did what they asked, and they destroyed RC online and not me. And I had seen him get some smoke before, but not this bad. The fans were tagging us together. DB's the man, RC gotta go, and it backfired. Bad. And no call from Bondo after, none from RC, He never told me if it was right or wrong or anything, like as if Oakland never happened. And not a single word to this day about Oakland. And that sucks really bad. Arlington was next. I was back on the floor and I have a unique ability to plow forward. It was a futures race and I was pumped. I love futures and love Blair's breakdown. And I was gonna introduce the futures kids to all the fans. And let me be clear about something. Blair's breakdown was a straight up gift to the fans. I never got paid. We never had a sponsor. I knew you all liked it and it was my absolute favorite thing to do. And he walks up to me on my show. It was the first time I spoke to him since Oakland and the first time since the fans really ripped into him. And he was with a bunch of VIPs on a tour and I was thinking it was gonna be good.
Kid last year at Loretta Lynn's was top 5.
I'm trying to do a VIP tour. You mind getting out of here, please?
Hi, everybody. Ricky Carmichael.
You're the chosen one. You're the fans' favorite toy here. So, but I'm trying to. Yeah, you're
like a Spin Master toy.
Yeah, a Spin Master toy. You're the favorite toy of the fans. So, but I'm trying to take care of these beautiful VIP people we have right now, giving them, telling them what to watch for tomorrow's broadcast. And
what are we watching for tomorrow?
Specifically tell them to do is go watch some old video of Daniel Blair racing Supercross, and whatever he does, you want to do the exact opposite. So that's what I start with. So
was it this stadium that you hit the boat? Or was that other stadium?
Almost hit the boat. Get your facts right.
I think he hit the boat. Ricky Carmichael, everybody. I don't even know what I was talking about. I know what I was talking about. Preston base fluke. Look at what just happened here. What just happened? There's a lot of jumps on this track. You couldn't have picked a different one?
No, well, we wanted to come to the middle of the section so I could really give them the bird's eye view.
Tell me where I can go where I won't interfere with your tour.
How about like out in the parking lot? Let's start there. Stay here.
The Ricky Carmichael comedy tour continues, folks, next Tuesday night at the local bar.
Don't you have another gig you got to go to? I mean,
I'm trying to get. If you would stop talking to me, I could get to my next obligation. Popcorn machine needs a refill.
Okay. All right. Well, go get your popcorn.
All right, guys. I'm back, and I'm refocused. What I was going to say about Preston base fluke.
Never had an issue with those. I actually reminded people that I actually raced. Some didn't even know that I raced, and it's fine. But this was different. There was people around, and he smacked me up pretty good. I tried to soften it up. I played back. I made the boat joke, but he made 2 bad jokes, and he called me the fans' toy. I care about the fans. They meant everything to me. I mean, I even surveyed my Main Event Moto podcast fans and wanted to know what they wanted, and they answered big time. I built my entire commentary around them and the fans, and he said that in front of fans and clowned me, and then took a shot at my career, which stings pretty bad, honestly. I regret my racing career, all of it. That's what fuels me and my work ethic. I was a corner cutter when I was young. I never put in the work, and that stung a bit, but I finished the show, I moved on to the next duty. I actually forgot it happened. I was not even mad about it in the moment. I just thought it was kind of over the top, but whatever. I mean, embarrassing, but not a big deal. I had 0 say in editing. Not like I didn't have say, but I just never was part of that. I loved watching the next day. Every week, I loved waking up in the hotel and watching it and seeing what they did. And the next morning, I watched it and I'm like, oh, damn, that's worse. That's way worse than I thought. Shit. I watched it 10 times and I couldn't believe I was getting this one. I couldn't believe I was getting Dave freaking Tona. And I had people close to me in my inner circle. They said, dude, just move on and just crush it. Don't trip over Oakland. Don't trip over the video thing. It was just a test. And if I was the real deal, I needed to handle some adversity, I could do it. So I did. Production call was on Wednesday. James was gonna join us for the main, which was sick. But then he and RC got riffing in the meeting and it was pretty damn rad. I mean, I wish they would have recorded those. They told a bunch of crazy stories about each other and those were always really sick. And the decision maker, he changed the plan on the spot. He said, James, Booth, full show. This is too good, and I was fired up. I mean, Daytona, both of them, Florida boys, full 3 hours. I couldn't even believe it. And I watched Tampa back again. Lee had both of them for Maine and Tampa, and I studied, and oh baby, I was ready. And I wasn't listening to anyone this time. No Friday night advice, no way. Friday, Daytona was unreal. I was floating. Thought back to my Geico 2009 days. You know, it was my first fill-in race for them. It was my first night ever as a factory rider, and I was just cloud nine all day. And after the rundown meeting, I get a call from Mr. Decisions, and
Oh my God.
he starts out all nice for the norm, and then he flipped. And I said, you listen to me. Nobody wants to hear from you. The fans want to hear from James and Ricky. Get it to them and stay out of it. And I was very polite back, but in my head, I'm thinking, what, am I stupid? I mean, are you serious? What, I'm gonna dominate the call with the legends? I mean, give me a break. But I had Glenn Seelig with me. He's the man who asked me to audition for Arena Cross back in 2014. He's a great friend of mine, and I get off the call and he told me, you need to relax. This is Oakland all over again. You need to prove you can handle this. But I would have never said that to anyone I wanted to succeed. Never. I mean, imagine being told that by the main dude the night before. I mean, unreal, but a pattern. And whatever, I went to bed, all good. I ain't taking that bait again. And I didn't. Daytona was a dream. It was the best night ever. It was a perfect night, and I crushed it, and they both crushed it. It was a clinic, and I have never been so happy. It was kind of a middle finger to homeboy for the phone call, but it was the first realization that this was starting to suck, and as good as it was, it kind of ruined it. And man, what a douchey call.
Yeah.
So a couple weeks go by, I went to Spring Nationals at Freestone, working for KTM, then back to Indy for Supercross, and back to Spring-a-Ding, and I was on the road for like 2 weeks, pulling it off somehow. But it was the week before Detroit, and I get a phone call from RC, which was a very inappropriate call, in my opinion. He gave career advice on how I could get to where I wanted. It involved Lee, and it was pure politics. I was disgusted. It was a tense call. I didn't respond to his advice very well. And I don't know if I even want to do this anymore. That's why I was thinking, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. This isn't cool. I ain't like that. I ain't like this. It was so lame, and ended up being pretty consequential for me. But Detroit was a good show. I still have pride. I still have a job to do. I love the fans, and I still have a very high standard that I need to meet. And I was definitely not in the same place. I started feeling like this is somewhere I shouldn't be, but I care, and so I crushed every chance I got, and I crushed that one. But next came email from Mr. Guy, and look, I'm sorry for not using names here, but if you want names, then just take me to court. I have every receipt, and discovery would be very fun for me. So anyways, he says we're gonna watch film, we're gonna talk career, and just when I was accepting the reality, this whole thing was icky to me. I was getting hit in every direction, and the invite comes in, and he says, come to Charlotte, let's talk. Detroit was pretty dang good too, and the fans were digging us again, and I'm thinking maybe I finally did it. A week later, in the meeting, I drive to Charlotte, and the stereo's blasting. I was totally on a high. It was unbelievable, but he was so nice. I mean, I get there, he was so nice. He gave me a tour, we had lunch, and then the film study. And we had the other NBC guy that I mentioned. I put together a demo, and he was on the Zoom for this part. I had my notepad out, I was ready to learn, you know, what was I missing? What was the final piece? I mean, it's the main dude, and it's time to learn. And the film session was odd. I mean, he admitted he hadn't watched it. We were gonna watch together, and I'm thinking, it's a weird way to do it, but okay. And the clips, they were unreal. I mean, it was damn near a highlight reel. And it was my best stuff, and by the third or fourth clip, I stopped taking notes. It was all positive. I mean, even the Houston thing was in there. He complimented me on the Houston opener and bashed Ricky a little bit. And I'm thinking to myself, that graphic, and I got blamed for that. I learned that he was clueless, though. He had no idea what was going on with me. And anyways, he says bye to the guy on the other side, and he shuts the laptop. And comes the 15 minutes of hell. He starts with, I'm out of the booth at Charlotte 5 months before, and I'm like, what? I was scheduled to do the first playoff. I was doing Charlotte, Todd Chicago, Lee would do LA, and he gave me a list of reasons. He said Weege and Lee had paid their dues, but I hadn't. And I'm like, dude, I've done 100 shows. What do you mean I paid my dues? And I challenged him on that very politely, and whatever, I challenged him politely. And then he says, I needed someone who can explain the playoffs the best. And I'm like, better than me? I've explained the playoffs 5,000 times on RDL, the broadcast ad nauseum all year. I mean, who better than me to explain the playoffs? And I started to realize that, yeah, he was clueless. It was obvious he wasn't watching, especially watching me. And then he says that my next step was to do a big NBC show. Not Peacock, but big NBC. And I needed to walk before I could run. I said, dude, I did a big NBC show last year, Minneapolis, 2022, I did one. And again, clueless. And I challenged every point, very politely. I wanted to understand, and I felt that he was kind of dancing around it a bit. And I mean, every reason he gave me was ridiculous. And I could tell that there was some frustration. He was getting a little bothered, and then he crossed the line. And he implied that I was too green to handle something tragic like a fatality. And I remember every word of this. And he said it in a really, really shitty way. And I almost knocked him out. 3 seconds, I almost did it. He struck a nerve. 2004, San Diego, Jason Charletta, kid I raced my whole life, died that day in a first turn crash in the daytime qualifier. I was in staging when that happened.
Oh no.
I have been laid out on that track countless times. I have broken myself in half multiple times in those stadiums. I lost my best friend Tiger Lacey, not to a crash at the Supercross. But he flashed through my mind when he said this, and this close. I got really quiet.
Oh shit.
He said, you seem upset over the Charlotte thing. And I said, I just didn't understand. It was 5 months in advance. Why make this decision now? And he said he had to do what was best for Ricky. And I said, man,
Unbelievable.
I am trying so hard to prove to you that I can be the guy. And he interrupts me. He says, Lee Diffie is the guy. And you need to understand that. It's like, oh, got it. I decided to put him on the spot. Enough was enough. No more guessing, no more confusion over my place in this. I needed to know. And I said, where do you see me the next 5 years? And this dude doubles down and tells me Lee isn't going anywhere, and you need to be grateful you're here. And I realized right then what it was.
Yeah.
And I accepted it. Right then and there. I told him I'm very grateful, and I understand. Thank you. And I left. Next up, the 5-day story, Tuesday to Saturday. I already told that on Gypsy. Ended in Glendale. I'm not telling that again. I resigned at Salt Lake City. I was asked not to. I wanted nothing to do with these people. And I emailed the next morning. I pressed send, and it was done. I went on SMX Insider to say goodbye. Said it in the way I wanted to. I didn't want to tell all this. Put my tail between my legs. I acted like nothing happened. I shut my phone off, and I went to Dollywood with my family. And I ate a shit ton of ice cream.
Dollywood.
It was too much, but I was free. Next up was the Cooksey video. I get a text and a call from Ricky's manager, who should have kept his mouth shut about me the last 2 years. Big oops. He says there's a Cooksey article that's coming out soon. I had no idea what he was talking about. He wanted me to stop it from happening. And I said, no way, I am not getting involved. I have moved on. I haven't spoken to Chris in years, and I actually had to tell Cooksey way back when that he couldn't come on my podcast anymore. He was a guest on there from time to time, and he was starting to go at Western Power on the Racer X network, and so that's not gonna work. And he was going at Feld and got his media credential pulled. And yeah, he was going after all three, and obviously I told Chris, I said, dude, I'm not mad at you, it's all good, but I just can't have you on anymore. And I thought he was going to destroy me. I thought I was gonna get whacked for that, but he didn't. It was actually the opposite. He said, I understand your place in this sport, and I have mine. I believe in you. I will leave you alone. It's all good. And I was like, phew. Again, this is like 4 to 5 years ago. So I told his manager, I said, look, I am not doing anything. I haven't talked to him. I am moving on. Please leave me alone. And he shared a screenshot of Cooksey and RC in a DM. And it was super weird. It was a weird response from RC, and my senses told me that something was up. So I asked point blank, did RC have something to do with this? And he said no. He was adamant, no. And I never thought he did. I thought it was just Mr. Decisions and his informant, but now I was curious. Video comes out. It was obviously horrifying, and I never spoke about this video until now, and I'm sorry to the moto heads at Main Event Moto. I am sorry that I didn't share this, but whatever. Chris was, he was pretty close. He wasn't wrong, but he had no evidence except for the breakdown video, and that's not why I left. It wasn't from that video. In all honesty, I probably could have worked things out with Ricky. I could have. My issue was like 75% the guy and 25% Lee. That's why I left. And
Wow.
from there comes a year and a half of just hell. Like the KTM job kept me preoccupied, kept me distracted, but it has been brutal. I have had hundreds, maybe thousands of fans and moto dads. Hey, wish you were there. F those guys, you're the best, what happened?
Yeah.
And it's been endless torture for me. Like, I had to lie like 100 times and just take the arrows and take the bullets. And that's my fault for not telling everyone the first time, and I have had to pay the price for that. But I wanted to move on. I was sick of all this. I went on Gypsy. I needed to satisfy the fans with a piece of the truth, to stop questioning me, but I couldn't tell it all. I wanted to protect the sport and everyone in it, and even the people that hurt me, and I have done that for almost 2 years now, and Gypsy was the way for me to get out of this, and it was so scary for me. I was so scared of what I was gonna say. Was I gonna be too harsh? What would they think? What would Feld think? I really only cared about them, and I was stressing until it came out. It came out and it was fine. It worked. A1 came, Jet got smoked, Deegs got beat by Shimoda, and Tomac came on Gypsy like right after me, and I had a messy couple of days, but A1 buried it kind of, and
Yeah, it did.
anyways, it worked. I moved on, and some people close to me were kind of pissed that I didn't bring up Lee and hit RC a little harder, but I didn't want to damage him or the sport. I love this sport, and I didn't want to be known for that. I did what I thought was right. The last 2 months, I have been floating. I've never been so happy in my life. I moved on. I've been having fun. I've been getting a little loose. I've been overreacting. I've been tweeting, and no angst, no more bad feelings, just positive. And I launched Supercross University, which has been amazing. It's where I'm meant to be. Main event. Never been this fun, and I was recovered. And then comes Daytona and race day live, and you should have left me alone.
Here it comes.
I was contacted by the bosses at Feld, a couple gentlemen that I respect a lot, and guys, I am sorry for this, but I have been through hell. They listened to Gypsy, they made it clear that I did the right thing, handled it correctly, I took the high road. I was so happy to hear that, and it was all okay. And they were the only ones I actually cared about And then I got a call, invited on to RDL to share what I'm doing. Supercross U was built because of them. I think futures and combines are amazing, and I wanted to help families strategize and get through this and get ready for it and get through the blender that is amateur racing. And I'm great with kids and great helping families, especially with the emotional stuff and career planning. Just
He's been through it all.
struggle with my own. It's my specialty, and I was invited to be a guest, and I was hesitant at first. I had a yucky feeling, but I wasn't planning on even going to a race. I had moved on, but I decided to do it, not for my TV career, but I wanted to reconnect with the people that meant a lot to me. And I wanted to hang with JB and Adam, and I thought the fans would dig it, and I said yes.
Yeah.
I'll come on Daytona. I agreed like maybe 3 weeks ago. Email chain comes in. I was even asked to speak at the Futures meeting on Friday after press day with Chad Reed and talk to the kids and the families. And it's really hard to explain the way I felt, but it was so good. And I told JB and Adam, I said, boys, I'm coming on. They were pumped.
About to cry.
And I drive to Daytona. I stopped at PAX, which is a track nearby, so my son Evan could get a few laps in. And I got my passes that morning, and I'm 45 minutes away, and I'm about to drive over when I get a text from the Race Day Live producer. A young girl, poor thing, has no clue what she's getting into with this, but they had her contact me, and she texted me and said at 2:35 it was coming on, and I had 3 minutes. And I looked at the schedule, and it was right before the Futures practice, and I text back, just 3 minutes? Do I get to call a practice? And she called me, and she was very nice, very respectful, and she says, no commentary.
What the fuck?
Not allowed to do commentary. And I'm like, what do you mean? She said it came above her pay grade, and I said, the bosses above your pay grade invited me on, and she said, it's not from our side. And I said, hold up, are you serious?
What?
Let me reach out. So I text the bosses. It turned into a call. It seemed a little confusing on the call. They said, sit tight. And get to the bottom of it, just sit tight. And about 20 minutes later, I get a call from the TV director at Feld. And he acts like it's a good idea. He created this segment for me, 3 minutes, maybe 4, and tried to convince me it was a good thing. And I questioned the strategy. I said, this is not good for the fans. This is not good for Justin and Adam. They'll get killed for this. This is terrible for me. I mean, what a slap across the face of the fans. I mean, what am I, the My Pillow guy? I mean, what, buy one, get one free? What the hell? I'm not pitching the fans a product in 3 minutes and bouncing. My customers aren't even watching. They're racing. It's Saturday. They're at a Loretta qualifier, and I would love to introduce Supercross U, but not like that. And he asked me what my expectation was, and I said, I don't have one other than to be a guest, a normal guest. And he said, I thought that's what you were here for. I explained that was the genesis of me being here, was that, but not some 3-minute pitch. I would never agree to that. I would never do that. I'm not a salesman. And I have way too much respect for the fans and for Justin and Adam and for myself.
Ridiculous.
So I pivoted back to the RDL producer. I said, she said it wasn't our side. And he said, oh, no. This was my call. And I said, dude, you're kidding me. You don't know the history here. This is something else. And he started to say something, and he stopped. And I said, no, follow through. What were you gonna say?
Oh no.
And he admitted that on the Gypsy Pod, I took a shot at their partner. It was his call. There would be no commentary. I told him there's no way I'm doing that. I can't, at a minimum, hang with my buddies and talk Supercross. I was not gonna do it. And he said he'd give me the 3 minutes. And I told him, no thank you.
Good for you.
I texted the bosses. I told them what happened. I said this was unreal. I got a call from one of them, and I told him this was ridiculous. I was blindsided again by these people, and I know what happened. And I never wanted any of this. I had moved on. I didn't need them. I didn't seek them to pitch, and I'm going home. I'm going home, and I drove home. I am
He was doing
done
them
with
a
this.
favor.
I should have known better. So now what? Where do I go from here? Well, moving forward, my time will go to the fans of Supercross. I will be on Main Event Moto with my friends. I want to be myself. I want to cover the sport my way with my friends, and I want to tell the truth. And oh,
Good.
baby, I will be moving forward. No more protecting. You guys blew that. And I will also be spending my time with the families, the amateur moto families through Supercross U and my career management program. I have a rare gift when it comes to this, and they will get my all. I am sorry again for hiding this twice. I hope you all understand now. I did what I thought was for the right reasons. I put the sport above the fans when the fans are the sport, and I won't do that again. You are all I've ever cared about, and I will make it up to you.
Wow. That's so messed up. And everybody knows how humble and down to earth he is and just legit. He is so legit. His hat shouldn't be saying 87%, it should say 100. But who expected it wasn't fully Ricky, that it was actually Lee Diffie? What the fuck? Wow. Good for Daniel speaking out. Honestly, I hope he's got a good lawyer and protection, because I don't think they're going to let this slide. Fans love him, and even some other insiders even love him. But this is going to take a huge hit with Supercross and Motocross and the whole broadcasting. Ugh.